Welcome to Kick Him in the Head, a podcast that takes an inside look at the world of mixed martial arts, featuring interviews from some of the top fighters from South Africa and around the world, with a focus on the EFC and UFC promotions. I'm your host, Yao. Join us as we delve deep into the techniques, strategies, and mindsets of these world-class athletes, learning from their experiences and getting insights into what it takes to succeed in the toughest sport on earth. Welcome everyone to the Kick Him in the Head podcast. And as always, I have an absolutely jam-packed MMA episode for you. Today, we are going into EFC 117, which happened last week, September the 12th. And the headline main fight title bout was between Faeez, the troublemaker Jacobs, and Vince, the bad man, Blitz, as I like to call him, Bembe. Now, this fight card was great, and we don't normally, and I said it last week in the preview show, we don't normally get to see female fights on a card, and we got the privilege of seeing one between I Am Krishka and Rebecca Mongi. Now, we'll get into that fight later, but welcome everyone to the Kick Him in the Head. Let's go. Let's get it. Time to go into it. Now, I first want to go into exactly what happened with the cards. So this was the final EFC card for the night. Now, I bring this up not just because there were great fights on the card, but specifically regarding the prelims. Now, if you have a look back to the previous show, this was the card that we were given from the EFC website that we managed to get on, on Tuesday, the 10th of September. This was the card that was available on the EFC website. Most of the fights are pretty much the same as the fight night, but I must turn to the World Sport Betting fight lineup, which was not for the most part the same as the fight night, or the fight card. So there were quite a few fights that changed, quite a few fighters pulled out. So there was quite a bit of changes with regards to the fight layout and who was fighting who. For example, we had Emerson Pedro coming in to fight in Bia Kalala. We had Petey Coxon coming in to fight Christian Omokombio. Now, obviously, these are last-minute pullouts due to various reasons, whether it be fighter unavailability or injury or whatever the case is. But it was just very interesting to see how much the card changed from the original on Tuesday all the way to Thursday. So big ups to all the fighters that took up late notice fights to actually make the fight night happen. Now, getting back into the actual fight night. It was a very interesting fight night, I'll be honest. Where it came to the prelims were not what we had expected. Quite a few of the fights didn't quite live up to the billing. I would point out Mukari versus Ntambwe and Pedro versus Kalala. Unfortunately, those two fights were verbal tap-outs or verbal submissions, which you never really want to see in the fight game. But unfortunately, that was what happened. So it kind of took away from the night, unfortunately. But the rest of the fights did come through. We had our veteran, Petey Coxon, legend in the Hex, legend in the EFC, will fight anyone at any time. He proved it again by fighting Christian Omokombio, at short notice. I think he had 24 hours notice for that fight, and he took the fight anyway because Christian's opponent pulled out. Now, Petey, the legend, he lost, unfortunately, and it turned out to be his last fight. He has now since retired. So unfortunately, we will no longer see Petey Coxon in the EFC Hex as a fighter, because now Petey Coxon, Thunder, has moved over to officiating, and he is now a new professional registered referee for pro MMA, which is fantastic because it's always good to have very experienced, very seasoned people in the MMA space coming through and becoming officials in the MMA world. So Godspeed to you, Petey Coxon. Thank you for a fantastic career, and we will definitely be seeing more of you in the Hex refereeing all the future fights to come. But yeah, thank you for coming out once more to show the fans what you've got, and we really wish you well in your retirement. Now, in the prelims, one fight I would like to point out is Mpohloka versus Kabeya. That was a good fight. Four Faces was back after a very long time, very experienced fighter up against what we would say is a novice. He's only got one professional fight in the EFC, but he came through in a big way. He managed to tie out his opponent, Four Faces, and eventually take him to the ground and beat him. So shout out to Impo. Second fight, second win against a very, very experienced, very, very dangerous Four Faces. So that was a very, very good fight to watch. Then we got to the main card. Now, the main card we're going to go into in a little bit more detail, but I will start with the main fight, the big one. Jacobs versus Bembe. The main event. The fight for the bantamweight title. The title that King Shaka gave up through injury. King Shaka, once again, we wish you speed. We hope to see you back in the Hex or back fighting wherever it is you want to fight. But this fight lived up to the billing. This fight between the troublemaker, Faeez Jacobs, and Vince Blitz Bembe lived up to the billing. It went all the way to the fourth round, which ended up in a finish for the troublemaker in the fourth round. So congrats to him. He is now the EFC Bantamweight champion for the second time, two-time Bantamweight champion of the EFC. And I think the one thing in this fight is I think Faeez outclassed Vince in this fight. I don't know how ready Vince was. If he wasn't ready, he looked ready at the weigh-ins. I don't know if the weight cut affected him, but he didn't seem as sharp, or Faeez was just a lot more prepared, because Faeez was definitely the better fighter on the night, and he did deserve the win. We know Vince Bembe. We know he will be back stronger. We know he will take on the next challenge, because he will always also fight anyone. But Faeez Jacobs showed the class of a double champion, the class of a former champion, the class of a champion who has fought in promotions overseas, numerous promotions. He has the experience. He showed the composure. We thought he would have come out in the first round throwing strikes, trying to take Bembe, trying to knock out Bembe, but he didn't do that. They basically spent the first round feeling each other out. Seemed kind of boring, but once we got into the second round, once they started going at each other, that's when the fight got interesting. That's when you could see how clinical the strikes were. That's when you could see where the training had been for each fighter. And they gave us a great fight. Definitely, they did also get fight of the night for this fight. Faeez Jacobs got fight of the night. So big ups to them, definitely on a great fight, great title fight, a fight worth watching for the bantamweight champion. And we hope that whoever Faeez goes up against next can give him a real challenge, because we know what Faeez wants next is to go to the UFC. When he hopped onto the Hex, onto the top of the Hex after his victory, what he was screaming was UFC, UFC. And we actually have the video of that. Haha. Where are you? Oh, do we have the video? Oh, actually, no, we don't have the video, but we do have fight. Now, as you can see, as I was saying, they spent the first few minutes just feeling each other out, seeing who was going to do what, who was going to bite which feints. Boring first couple of minutes. And then eventually they got into it. And once they got into it, that's when we could see who was going to win this fight. Still there, see, still feeling each other out. This was definitely deep into the second round. They spent a lot of time feeling each other out. But as I said, once they connected, once they got into it, you could see who was ready, who had the timing, who had the power, who had the skill. And as I said, Faeez, the troublemaker, he got the victory. He hopped the fence. He hopped the cage to the top. There he is, UFC. And that's what he wants next. So we hope to see Faeez, hopefully in the Hex, defending his title before he makes a big move to a promotion like the UFC, or let's say Brave, or whichever promotion that he wants to go to. The next fight on this card was my fight of the night prediction, and it actually was the fight of the night prediction. This is the one that Graham Cartmel, the matchmaker, said was the fight of the night. And I'm sorry, he's got a fight bonus. He didn't get the fight of the night. This was the fight of the night between Willie Van Rooyen, the White Lion, and Gaugelo Mutela. Now, the one thing I said to all of them, I even asked Billy this question at the post-fight press conference, is, did you know that Gaugelo could hit so hard? Gaugelo Mutela was throwing absolute bombs in that fight. He was swinging for the fences on every hook that he threw, overhand rights. He was striking, kicking. It was a great fight. He put the White Lion to the test. The first test of his career. Now he's 5-0. He's now looking at a championship shot. His performance was nothing short of astounding. As I said, he was catching bombs from Mutela. Mutela caught him in the second round with a left hook, which knocked Viljoen down. Viljoen was down. We thought, oh my gosh, the fight is over. We have a new contender in Gaugelo. But Willie showed the dog. He showed the dog. He got up And he then took the fight another 2 rounds. And I think that knockdown actually woke him up, because after that, that's when he was really, really in the fight. This fight was absolutely stunning. I really look forward to seeing both fighters back in the hex. Raul, as much as he lost this fight, he showed that he is definitely still a top contender in the EFC. He is still a very, very top contender. He has the skills, he has the power to go up against the best. Now, let's see what challenge Graham and the matchmakers at EFC have for him up next. But I think Willie will be in line for a title shot very, very soon, probably up next, if the matchmakers have their way, especially with his performances and with his crowd pull and how the crowd reacts to him. I think definitely we have a new star in Willie the White Lion, Bilyun. There he is, winning by armbar over Raul Musiala after very, very hard-fought 4 rounds. Sorry, 4 rounds. I think if it had gone the distance, it would have been very tricky if it had gone to the judges, because we don't know which way this fight would have gone. It was a close fight up until the victory submission by the White Lion. Now, this is not the official fight of the night. This is my fight of the night. My fight of the night. The fight that made me stand up and say, oh my goodness, dang, let's get more of this. Let's get it. Let's go. The fight that for me, I wish that, well, I was going to say I could see again, which I can't because I can just watch it on TV, but I wish I could see again live, and hopefully she is back soon. And I said it, she is the fight between Rebecca Mongi and I Am Krishka. Now, this was a very interesting fight. Both fairly inexperienced fighters. Mongi with more losses than wins in her career coming up to this fight. She was on 2-3, now she's up to 3-3 with this win. But the skill, the versatility, the dynamism that she showed, for me, is why this was definitely one of the fight of the night. Apart from the fact that we don't normally get female fights in the EFC, so it's always a treat when you get one. It's even more of a treat when you get one like this. Krishka, 47-year-old fighter, so she's not exactly a spring chicken. She's helping give the division depth, sure, but she stood in there. She was in that hex, and she took a beating. She took an absolute beating from Rebecca Mongi. Rebecca went in there and picked her apart, destroyed her over 2 rounds before finally getting the TKO. The ref had to eventually step in and say, listen, I can't take any more of this. She can't take any more of this. We need to end this fight now. Rebecca Mongi trains with one of the only pro-female fighters who is full-time, not moonlighting, not doing anything else, but solely focused on fighting, in Juliet Chukwu. So right now I'm wondering, I hope I didn't get her name wrong. Right now, I'm really looking forward to seeing how the women's division, the EFC, progresses, because the performance that Rebecca put on is definitely something to marvel, something that honestly makes me really excited to see in the EFC, and to hopefully have more female fights in this division, the flyweight division, to have more excitement from this division in the near future. So for me, that was my fight of the night. Rebecca was very, very excited for her win. She did a very, very entertaining twerk after her win, which we don't get to see often, as I've said so many times right now in the EFC. So with her current record of 3-3, she's definitely one of the women with the most experience. As much as there's 3 losses in her career, I think she's on a 3-fight winning streak now, meaning that she is in the position to grow her career. Let's just hope that the EFC matchmakers can get her more fights, because we definitely want to see her in the hex again. Now, there are a few fights that were mentioned by the matchmakers at EFC in the post-match press conference in terms of the upcoming bouts. There is one, though, that stands out for 2 reasons. The first reason is it's the GOAT. The GOAT, Iga Smiley Cabeza, will be defending his lightweight strap against the former champion, who no one knew where he was to defend at that point in time, but he has returned to reclaim what he believes is his. in the form of Chilumba Mikishi. Now, this fight is one that I think we all needed in order to have Iga Smiley Kabesa solidified as the GOAT. He fought for the vacant lightweight title in order to win it. Whereas we have Chilumba Mikishi, who's a former champion, who's looking to come back and claim it. So this fight is for all the marbles where it comes to GOAT status for Smiley. And to be honest with you, I don't see him losing this one. I think this one is for his legacy, but we'll speak about this fight closer to the time. It is all the way in December, and that's the other interesting thing about this fight. We don't normally get this sort of lead time where it comes to information around the fights coming up on EFC cards, let alone one happening in the next 4 months. So shout out to the matchmakers for getting this match made early and letting us all know about it so we can talk about it, so we can be excited about it, so that we can get this lightweight championship seen around the world, which is what I think everyone needs to do where it comes to seeing the GOAT, Iga Smiley Kabesa, fighting and defending his lightweight title. That for me is the most exciting matchup that they have announced so far at the EFC in the past month. I'm really looking forward to that fight, and I hope you guys are too, because it's always a treat when we see the GOAT Smiley in the Hex. Now, I know this is the EFC recap show, but one other fight that stood out. I might get a strike on that, but Tabatso Molele, this fight was brutal. He put an absolute beating on Saladin Plaikis, and I just had to shout out this fight before we end the show. We are almost at the end, simply because of the performance he put in. Yes, Plaikis was coming in. I think he had only a 2-day notice. They let him know on Monday that he was going to be fighting on Thursday, so he didn't have enough time to cut weight and train and all that. But the performance that Tabatso Molele put on was phenomenal. He got a fight bonus on that night because his performance against a seasoned veteran in the form of Plaikis was something worth watching. So shout out to Tabatso Molele. And one other thing, yes, once again, I know it's the recap show. One other thing that happened this weekend that was absolutely exciting. It was like, I don't even know what to say about it, but I'm still excited about what I experienced. So we've all been talking about UFC Africa. Now, if you know a fighter by the name of Cameron Simon is an EFC fighter, former EFC, current UFC bantamweight fighter who has started his own promotion here in South Africa. The promotion is called Versus. Now, Versus had its first fight night that was professional this past Saturday. And ladies and gentlemen, let me tell you, if we're talking about UFC Africa, we have to be looking at what Versus managed to pull off in what they're calling their Moorboer series, which they combined with their EFC Pro promotion at the Hartfeld Arena in Pretoria. Now, if you have a look at these crowds are, it's a big crowd. I think it numbered almost 5,000 people. This was their first pro promotion fight. Their first pro fights as a promotion. They had only previously done amateur fights. Now, with that, there's some competition for the EFC, but not necessarily competition. I mean, it just means more fighters will be available to fight across different promotions, but also it gives the UFC a view of what to expect in South Africa. Now, we all know that UFC President Dana White has been talking about bringing the UFC to Africa and to South Africa. I mean, look at those crowds. And to South Africa, following the win of Dricus Still Knox du Plessis at UFC 306. So since then, we've been wondering, can they do it? Will there be an audience? Oh my goodness. If you have a look at the audience here, 5,000 people coming to watch a little local promotion. Imagine the crowds we will get when it is the UFC. So shout out to Versus for their first promotion event. I think it was a great event. They did absolutely phenomenal. I really look forward to the next time that they host an event like this. I see in the chats we have a few comments. Where do you think the future in the EFC lies? This is referring to Rebecca Mongi. I think it lies in a title fight, probably next, because honestly, to be fair, there's not much depth in the female divisions in the EFC. So 2-3 fights, you can be a champion. And I think with that performance that she put on, training with Juliet Oka, I think she definitely can go for championship status in the EFC. Yes, it was jam-packed. Murubur versus 10 in Pretoria was absolutely jam-packed, and we look forward to South Africa filling UFC seats just like that in the near future. Dana White, please, we are waiting for you to announce UFC Africa. Don't take it to Cape Town. Bring it here to Joburg. Bring it to Pretoria. We know that Cape Town's been lobbying strongly for UFC Africa, but I think the home of MMA, I was going to say the home of MMA in South Africa is in Gauteng, but if I think about it, there's currently Luke Michael, Cape Town, Faeez Jacobs, Cape Town, Terrence the Black Panther Balelo, Cape Town. So maybe I'm wrong. Maybe Cape Town is the best place. Maybe Cape Town right now is the home of MMA in South Africa. But we don't know what the guys will do. We don't know what the UFC will do. We are looking forward to hearing what they will do. But as always, ladies and gentlemen, we have come to the end of the show. And I think, how am I going to end this one? I think I know. Do you know? Well, to everyone listening, don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe at Headkick Pod on all platforms. Look out for us. We've got a lot of content coming. We've got interviews with Nick Kwende, who's going to be defending his title against Nkosi the Future. Did I say Nick is defending his title? Nkosi the Future in the Bella is going to be defending his title against Nick the Saint Kwende at Brave coming up soon in Bahrain. Look out for that. That's going to be amazing. We have Gift the Day Walker fighting at a UAE Warriors event this coming weekend, September the 27th. So there's lots of MMA happening, lots of excitement. To everyone listening, don't forget to kick them in the head. As always, salute.